Thank you so much for the kind invitation to be part of this collective conversation on digital technology and culture. This topic is one of my research and teaching interests in the past 2 decades, and I'm so honored to be part of the reflection and learning that is taking place at Fuller. I was tasked to address the present-day socio-technical context of missional engagement. So I will focus on the intersections between big data, religion, and communication today. So first, some background. One of the key paradoxes of increasingly mediated environments is the invisibility of media. The nature of digital and social connectivity has changed. As a global ecosystem of connected devices and applications are embedded in our so-called smart homes, schools and churches, and even microchipped in our cells. This Internet of Things, or IoT, infrastructure is sustained by big data. Vast troves of structured and unstructured data that are transferable over digital networks and analyzed computationally with real-time collection, tracking, and predictive analysis. As the internet, or IoT, is now metaphorically and literally woven into the fabric of daily life, datafication, or the ability to render into data many aspects of the world that have never been quantified before, has implications for everyday operations, including religious life. As data-enabled interactions are expected to increase, and we become increasingly accustomed to deploying artificial intelligence or AI in our habitual experiences, it has even been proposed that the modern human species, Homo sapiens, will evolve into an upgraded breed of superhuman, Homo Deus. As such, and in response to the conference theme so elegantly titled Techno-Sapiens in the Network Era, it is significant to consider how datafication forms the socio-technical context within which missional life is expressed. So to start, I will first highlight 2 points regarding datafication by drawing upon church history and technology studies. In parallel to extreme scenarios accompanying prior technological innovations, both utopic and dystopic visions of datafication have emerged. Enthusiasm for data-driven innovations have been embraced by religious advocates. On the other hand, critiques have also been voiced concerning its biased nature. Subsequently, this discussion will then point to the need to consider a dialectical perspective in religious datafication, as bigger data streams intertwine with concurrent tensions in the development of religious identity, community, and authority. Moving on to point 1. So first, although the term big data has recently drawn popular attention, contrary to common perceptions of secularization, there are historical precedents and current examples of taking a data approach to religion. As I have explicated elsewhere in an article, datafication today has a history in religious hosts and contexts. Enthusiasm towards descriptive, inferential, and longitudinal analysis to church data have been expressed. Historically, church leaders have stressed the importance of adopting the latest technologies, for example, from the then novel use of spreadsheets to modern computerized management practices for the careful accounting of church and religious community resources. Proposals to employ specialized personnel who might be conceived as data analysts today to work on tracking church behavioral data and outliers have also been floated, for example, in the early modern Reformed churches in Europe. In these ways, datafication with the extensive use of numbers and budgets in church records has been treated as a manifestation of holistic stewardship to advance spiritual goals. Akin to historical initiatives, present-day enthusiasm has been voiced over the notion of big data, with its volume, veracity, and velocity amplified by mobile and digital technologies. As Jose Van Dyke points out, a dominant ideology in our network era is dataism, or the prevalent belief in the objective quantification and monitoring of human behavior with technology, coupled with trust in institutional agents that mine and interpret data from online platforms. Notably, this mindset is present among contemporary church leaders as well, who have projected positive visions and outcomes to the use of big data in the church. For example, in light of changes in the social makeup and modes of communication in US congregations, an assistant professor of religion and senior pastor of a church in Virginia recently argued that for those of us who are church leaders, data collection and analysis could be the key for providing a deeper faith life to the people of congregational community. Support for datafication and a belief in dataism is exemplified by his affirmation, to quote, "If big data is being used to guide us in our shopping habits, could it also be used to guide people to a deeper commitment to God, faith life, and community?" The answer is yes. On the other hand, a second major point, which is perhaps more muted in public discourse related to big data, is how datafication processes and practices are marked by church politics and power, reflecting social inequities. Throughout history, new media practices have also been accompanied by skepticism and moral panic. Similarly, with regard to datafication, cautionary notes have been voiced regarding elites' influence on data collection and selective reporting, resulting in knowledge gaps. For example, data practices are not impersonal, but embedded in religious norms and governance. Missing cases, for example, render any data analysis skewed. Yet, his church historian Judith Pullman observed that deviant conduct of church leaders and prominent family members were often omitted from official church records and thus not catalogued. By extension, different methods of data sampling and documenting might hamper meaningful cross-cultural comparisons between religious organizations, as well as any over-time comparisons within the church. Recent new media scholarship has similarly highlighted complexities in the processes of datafication. Strikingly, the first phase of data-driven platforms and projects have been described as painstaking data wrangling and even janitorial work to clean the data. In this sense, defying conventional understanding, there is no raw data. Digital data sets have to be cooked with care and attention to political and practical decisions in the data collection and preparation process. This discussion here about the parallels between the past and present point to the continuities and complexities of taking a data approach to religion. Celebratory and critical views of datafication raise larger questions about its contested nature. What are the implications of dataism for the enactment of missional practice? In what ways are countervailing dynamics of datafication entwined with emerging developments in religious collectivities and governance? As new waves of data related to religious interactions raise new opportunities and rights, it behooves us to concurrently consider risks and responsibilities for religious communities and adherents. In the second part of my presentation, I will discuss taking a dialectical approach to religious datafication and highlight emergent tensions in religious identity, community, and authority. A dialectical approach holds contradictions, known as dialectics, endemic in changes in social life. Amidst human relationships, people act and are acted upon to manage tensions. This perspective provides a meta-theoretical framework for deepening understanding of digital media and religious culture, as it recognizes the concurrence of two relational forces of interaction and its seeming opposites. Here, taking a dialectical approach to religious datafication prompts new critical considerations of biblical and missional engagement within the Internet of Things, or IoT. In the next section, I will discuss how religious leaders are now both privileged and disadvantaged in the face of datafication, and then discuss how religious followers engage and are engaged by digital media. First, accelerating and altering ministry engagement. In the face of mounting datafication, religious authority is restructuring as leaders are privileged with new modes of control, while also being challenged by new demands of data management, storage, and analyses. On the one hand, church statistics are being channeled by religious leadership to aid in strategic recruitment and planning with an eye on growth. Indeed, it has been observed that a shift in the approach to global missions has involved an uptick in attention to data-driven practices, not just to demonstrate outreach effectiveness, but to direct efforts of evangelistic works using particular methods with a focus on reaching specific persons of interest. Christian megachurches worldwide have also adapted entrepreneurial tech startup strategies to monitor data, including the use of in-church clicker surveys, data leveraged from their church apps, and the promotion of church-led social media campaigns. Online tools like churchmetrics.com, taglined as "See trends and make better decisions to grow your church," provides churches with an account to help them input and track their data, including patterns of their volunteer involvement, giving, attendance, baptisms, and even the number of cars in the parking lot. Interestingly, this site also showcases possibilities for data correlation, as their weather integration feature provides a way in which local weather conditions and information can be integrated into church trends like adult attendance figures. In these ways, dialectics in the restructuring of religious authority and community relate to datafication practices in churches today. On the one hand, empowered with new databases, religious leaders are now privileged with new modes of knowing and control. At the same time, clergy may concurrently experience new stresses as they are faced with time and labor pressures regarding data collection and continuous input, together with emerging needs to manage new systems of analysis and data storage. Furthermore, data overload for clergy can ironically dim their decision-making and lead to less efficient operations. For example, data-led processes to measure growth within a limited time frame may be imperfectly equated with the community reflected in the New Testament Greek conception of koinonia that is profoundly cultivated in mutuality and accountability over time. Subsequently, it is possible to reach quantitative engagement indicators like attendance, like, or click targets through means that may distort and undermine the real desired outcome, partnership and biblical fellowship. Second, as datafication processes undergird and mediate social and online interactions, notions of the self and identity, which are composed of our basic understandings and assumptions of how such cells may and or must share data in order to relate to larger groups, are changing. Religious followers are privileged and disadvantaged as they engage and are engaged by digital media and its accompanying forms of datafication. On the one hand, personal piety can be nurtured through multiple mediated modes. Religious users are now empowered with new choices and access to curated platforms for their edification and education. At the same time, big data is being harvested from the routine ways in which these users engage digital platforms to read the word and share. A case in point here is how the mobile Bible app YouVersion has drawn from user interactions, or what it has termed Bible engagement online, to shape its platform and report a range of user statistics. Religious identities are being shaped as individuals are cultivated towards distinctive forms of habitual interaction and platform user retention. For example, it has been observed that users assess this Bible reading app through an interface designed to visually and procedurally emphasize game design elements, rewards, and the sharing of very specific categories of Bible texts to boost its reading plan completion rates. Tensions may ensue when particular cells do not respond to specific features or goals like daily streaks and perfect weeks, and are thus not recognized according to optimal standards of engagement as marked by the app. A tweet on YouVersion from one user, illustrated here, is quite informative. She commented, "There should be a way to remove streaks, because I find sometimes I'm more concerned with the streak number than with my actual devotion." Furthermore, the notion of online engagement may be constrained by multiple structural and individual level digital divides. Material access to digital gadgets appear to be resurfacing as a primary digital divide, as we witness escalating device prices with every upgrade, bundled with new features and increasing computing power. Another key divide in big data analytics is between those who have the capacities to extract, collect, process, and profit from data, and those whom data collection targets. Contemporary datafication and its risks to individuals are linked to how Christian entities are also collecting data, with either the lack of a data privacy policy or the use of jargon-filled templates online that may not be easily understood by their congregants. Research has shown that users' miscomprehension of their consent and terms of use is associated with a perceived loss of control and perceived higher opportunity costs of non-participation on social media. Moreover, when individuals are compelled to share their data via systems that are increasingly sophisticated with geographic information systems, or GIS-enabled systems, data tracking and mining, a distaste for policy or lack thereof may erode institutional trust. So to conclude, beyond extreme visions of technological optimism and pessimism, understanding how religious collectives and individual lives are privileged and disadvantaged in light of datafication illuminates new questions and concerns for missional engagement. Within present-day Internet of Things, or IoT, and the potential to connect to social networks through any smart device, the notion of my digital neighbor is likely to be more varied and complex. This is not least because a growing number of religious actors, human and non-human algorithms, are both creating as well as responding to data visions and flows. Exposure to suggested friends are widened as platforms prompt structured and even regular data sharing. In turn, growing digital engagement in a network era has taken on greater significance as religious followers engage with and are engaged by digital and social networking platforms, including app-enabled Bible reading experiences. As discussed, spiritual leaders and adherents are privileged and disadvantaged as they utilize new features of connectivity, while being at the same time faced with new costs of participation and inequalities that might not be easily overcome. More attention in the future might be paid to how clergy and laity cope and manage these dialectics, with added consideration of how datafied operations shape our concept of ourselves and our neighbors. With caution, communication researchers have noted that on social media, users for practical purposes are not real persons, but abstract operations enacted through the aggregation of singular data points. It is thus significant with big data operations that we honor meaning and explanation. At present, a focus on the creation of value from digital platforms appears to justify swift rollouts and early adoption. Yet, the dialectics of datafication highlight how new data can simultaneously unite and divide us, facilitating the fostering of new ties while fracturing other social contracts. Loving our neighbor as ourselves entails, but is not limited to, an attention to these underappreciated data tensions in context, including circumspection of the rights and privacy of individual persons in their everyday and quotidian affairs online. As C.S. Lewis pointedly put it, there are no ordinary people. Next to the Blessed Sacrament itself, your neighbor is the holiest object presented to your senses. Insofar as IoT, or the Internet of Things, is evolving quickly and becoming invisibly embedded in our routine rhythms and networks, with relatively little public scrutiny and ambivalence, a dialectical and interdisciplinary outlook helps advance our duty of data and discernment in a network era. Thank you.